Well, welcome to Charlie's Tales. My name's Charlie Glass, and I've been collecting, writing, and telling these stories practically all my life. And the story I want to tell you about today is one I call Calling the Game Warden. Now, Reelfoot Lake is the only natural lake in the state of Tennessee, and it's located way up in the northwestern corner, right close to Tiptonville, Tennessee. And it was formed December 31st, 1811. There was an earthquake that took place along the New Madrid Fault that runs basically parallel to the Mississippi River. And the old folks says that when the earthquake took place, that the Mississippi River actually ran backwards, and the southern flow hit the northern flow just about Tiptonville, and it allowed the water to move east, and when it did, it filled up the Reelfoot Lake. Now, Reelfoot Lake turned out to be a sportsman's paradise. There were hundreds of thousands of ducks. The fishing was great, and so it was a very active spot as far as the game wardens for the state of Tennessee were concerned. And the game warden who was assigned to Tiptonville to work the Reelfoot Lake was going to have to retire. He didn't really want to, but the state had this rule that after 25 years he had to retire. And so he had notified him of his retirement. They sent in a brand new game warden right out of game warden school, and he came in about a month before the old warden retired, and so he was going to spend a few weeks with him and kind of get the lay of the land and kind of understand what was going on. So as they were traveling around the lake, they were talking back and forth about different things that were going on, and they passed Jacob Robertson's house. And as they passed his house, the old game warden says, "This is my biggest failure. Jacob Robertson shoots ducks at least once a week, every week throughout the year, and I've never been able to catch him. I know absolutely for a fact that he does it, but I just have not been able to catch him." And so he's in the game. The young one says, "Well, how do you know he does that?" He said, "Well, it's just pretty obvious that he does." But he said, "And I think I figured out what he's doing, but I just haven't been able to catch him. And I think what he does is he baits the area around his house and draws the ducks in." And he considers himself to be an expert with a slingshot. Now, there used to be a guy that lived here on the lake back in the 30s that his name was Slingshot Charlie Thompson, and Jacob considers himself to be the latter-day Slingshot Charlie, and so he said, "I'm absolutely positive that he calls those ducks up early in the morning when he gets up, and he goes out with his slingshot, and he'll kill him a duck or two, and he'll cook them for that week." And so they went back to Tiptonville to the office, and they were sitting there talking, and the young game warden got to thinking, if he couldn't catch him, this could be a feather in my cap if I can actually catch him in the act. And so he started planning what he was going to do. It took him about 2 months to get his plan together. And on the day he was going to execute his plan, he went out and got in his boat about 2 o'clock in the morning, and he puttered around across the lake over to Jacob's house. Now, Jacob lived on the very western edge of the Green Island Point. And he was probably the only guy left living in that part of the country. And so the young game warden got in his boat, and he motored as far as he thought it was safe, and then he got about a half a mile from Jacob's house, and he turned the motor off, and he paddled the rest of the way. And he got close to the house, he put on his waders, and he climbed out of the boat into the lake. Now, the lake is not a very deep lake, it's rather shallow. And so he walked around the bank until he got to Jacob's house, and then he hid himself in all the bulrushes that was growing along the bank there. And by then it was about 4 in the morning. And in a few minutes, he saw the light come on in Jacob's house. And he could see Jacob in the kitchen puttering around fixing breakfast. And then about 15 minutes later, Jacob walked out on the front porch and he said, "Hey, game warden, you better come on in, since breakfast is about ready." And so he went back in the house. So the game warden just sat there. And in a few minutes, Jacob came back out on the porch and he said, "Game warden, you better come on in here. You're going to catch your death of cold out in that lake out there." And the game warden was sitting there and he thought, well, I don't know how he caught me, but he found me. So he stood up, walked up on the bank, took his waders off, hung them up over the banisters on Jacob's porch, and he went in and sat down, and Jacob served him one of the finest breakfasts he'd had in a long time. And so they sat there eating breakfast and just talking small talk. And after they got through, the game warden said, I really need to ask you a question. He said, "How did you know that I was out there this morning?" Jacob says, "Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't know you were out there. I've been calling game wardens every morning for 20 years. You're just the first one that ever showed up." Well, I do hope you enjoyed our story. And if you did, I hope you will subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. And in the meantime, we'll talk to you on the next video.